Hey guys, welcome back to part 3 of this mini video series on how to get that job. In this third and last video, we will focus on all aspects regarding a job interview. First of all, if you have made it this far, that is pretty awesome because not many candidates get invited to a job interview. The reason for that is that it takes up a lot of a company's resources. But now that you have made it this far, you just need to make sure to overcome this last hurdle as well and seal the deal. Before we get started, in just a second, let me introduce myself quickly for those who don't know me yet. My name is Laura and I'm an attorney working for a court of law in Switzerland. Besides that, I make videos and share all sorts of advice about law, career and personal finance that I wish I knew a lot earlier. Now let's get started with today's video regarding job interviews. In this video, we are going to focus on 3 different time periods. The time before your interview, the day of the interview and the actual interview, and the time after the interview. Before that, I would like to point out to you that the whole time during your job interview, you should bear in mind that this is a two-sided contract negotiation. A mistake that is often made at a young age or at an early stage of a career is that young candidates don't negotiate enough during a job interview. Instead, they consider themselves incredibly lucky if they get any kind of job offer and accept it without thinking about it twice. The problem if you do this is that you waste a great opportunity because a job interview is actually a chance for both parties to negotiate the best deal for themselves. Before we talk some more about negotiation, let's look at the first important time period regarding your interview, and that is the time before your job interview. This concerns the time span after you got invited to the interview but before it actually takes place. Regardless of how long this time span actually is, make sure you use it wisely and to your advantage. The goal here is to prepare your interview in the best possible way. And to do this, the first thing you want to do is to do research on the company that you want to work for. This can include the following. Find out and learn about what they do. What products do they sell or what services do they provide? What's the company's history and what changes have occurred in the past few years? What's the company's work culture and how is it organized? How many people work there and what are the roles and the background of the people that are going to interview you? A lot of this information can usually be found on a company's website, but websites like Glassdoor or LinkedIn, for instance, can also provide some very valuable information to you, and I would therefore recommend you to check them out as well. Make sure to take notes about all the information that you found to be able to look back at it again later. The next important step that you take is that you define what you expect in this job that you applied for. One of the most important aspects here is, of course, your salary. I can guarantee you with 100% that you will be asked about your salary expectations during your job interview. And it is really unfortunate if you have not thought about this beforehand or done your research on it. It is very important that you find out what I call your market price before the interview. You want to find out in advance what the highest possible wage is that you can negotiate at the interview when being asked about it. With your expectations, you need to be determined but realistic. To find out what salary you can ask for with the experience that you have, I first suggest you to check out the salary range that is indicated for your job on websites like Glassdoor. This way you can find out what the average wage for your position is and later on make sure that you are not paid below average. It can also be very helpful if you know people that do the same job as you do, if you ask them about their wage or what their wage was when they had your level of experience. In addition to that, it can help if you have several interviews with different companies because you will have a direct comparison of the wage that they offer you. You will also realize that despite what you think, there is always room for salary negotiations. If you are good, any company will be willing to pay a good price for your work. So when preparing for the interview, make sure to bear that in mind when you define the price that you want to ask for later in the job interview. In general, I follow 2 guidelines when I'm interviewing for a new job. First of all, there is no way that I'm gonna accept a job in which I earn less than in my previous one. Second, I normally expect a raise of at least 10% when I start a new job. If it is less than 10%, I negotiate on other benefits. These can include the following examples: more time for an annual leave or holidays, paid classes, courses or trainings, a better job title, sign-on or guaranteed bonus, transportation allowance, flexible work hours, the option to do home office, which means that you save other expenses when you don't have to commute to work, or a better or higher pension fund contribution. What I want you to bear in mind is that the outcome of your job interview is going to have a huge impact on your life. I therefore recommend you to write down all of the points that are important to you to make sure to talk about all of these aspects later on in your interview and get the best deal for you. While you do that, you also want to make sure that you're thinking about your future. It is important to clarify what career options you will have in a couple or in a few years, how you can get a raise or move up from your current position. Asking these questions will also show the people that are interviewing you that you want to make a long-term commitment to the company, which is always a good sign to them. For you, it is a lot easier to clarify and negotiate all that now compared to a few years later when your salary and your position are already fixed. As a next step, you want to prepare some questions that you ask. They can either concern the points that we just talked about or all sort of other aspects regarding the job you applied for or the company you want to work for. The reason why you need to do this is because at the end of your interview you will certainly be asked whether you have additional questions or not. And it is always good to have some questions either about the tasks that you will be doing or about your future team, for instance, because it shows that you have prepared for the interview in advance and that you are curious about your future job and your future workplace. You just need to make sure that you don't ask questions that have already been answered. But if you do so anyways, you need to point out that you would like to come back on a certain aspect or that you would like to clarify something. As a last point here, I would like to mention that it is completely okay if you bring the questions that you prepared to the interview with you in a nice work folder. Again, it will only show that you took some time to prepare the interview, and that is never a bad sign. In the next step, you should think about what you might be asked during the interview. You could be asked about your strengths and weaknesses, for instance, and if this is the case, you want to make sure to sell your weaknesses in a positive way. Let me give you an example here. Personally, I know that I am really impatient. Waiting and being patient is just not my strong side. But what I say in an interview and what is true is that I get things done really fast, really efficient, and in a very good way. Therefore, I have equally high expectations to others, which can be a bit challenging sometimes. This way, I connected some of my good qualities with a weakness that I have to sell the later a lot better. Another very open question you might be asked is, tell us about yourself. If this is the case, you want to have your answer ready because it would not be very good if you had no idea what to say right now. I recommend you to give an answer that includes both some information about you as an employee and some more personal information about you. You can mention what values or other aspects are important to you at work, share some of your work experience that you've gained, or talk about a big achievement from your previous job, for instance. On the personal side, you can say whether you like to work in a team, for example, or describe your character in a positive way, or talk about the goals that you have for the future. Besides that, your preparation should also include the following: dress for success. That means that you think about the clothes that you want to wear to your interview in advance, because it would be really unfortunate if on the day that your interview takes place, the suit or the dress that you wanted to wear actually needs to be cleaned. What you wear depends a lot on the job that you applied for. Normally, men are required to wear a suit that fits nicely with or without a tie, or at least a very nice shirt with or without a tie. Only if you are explicitly told to do so, I would recommend you to appear very casual, meaning in a jeans and a t-shirt, but more often than not, this is not the case. For women, wearing a nice dress that is not too short or a business outfit with a blazer and a nice blouse combined with some elegant shoes are normally a good way to go. In general, it is always better to be a bit overdressed than underdressed. Finally, what you want to plan as well is the time schedule for the day of your interview. Find out how much time you need to prepare at home, where to park, which train or bus to take, and how long it is going to take you to get there. You should also plan some extra time to be absolutely sure that you don't risk being late. Now that you have done all the necessary preparations, let's get to part number 2, which is the day of your interview and the interview itself. Before the interview, just make sure that you are ready for it. That means get enough sleep, eat enough to prevent getting hungry during the interview, get your clothes ready and set an alarm, or better, a few alarms. It is always better to get there early and have a coffee somewhere compared to getting there late and being super stressed out about it. When arriving at the place where your interview is actually going to take place, make sure to be nice to all the people that you get in contact with and not just to the ones that are interviewing you later. While you have to wait, I recommend you not to be on your phone and not to put in headphones or do a similar thing, because most likely you are always under observation now. During the interview and before, try to remember that the people interviewing you are just normal people. Even better, they like you, they think you have a good profile, otherwise you wouldn't be sitting here. So there is no reason to be extremely nervous or even scared. Instead of that, try to be natural and not be super tense. Also try to have a positive appearance and speak loud enough to show confidence. On the other hand, you absolutely want to avoid being arrogant or disrespectful to your current or previous employer and or your coworkers. In addition to that, you also want to make sure to stay honest the whole time during your interview. If you lie for your salary, for instance, it's only gonna backfire at you later on and make you seem unprofessional. It is therefore a lot better to just stay with the truth. Besides that, show some interest and be curious about the job that you applied for. Ask the questions that you prepared or share some visions that you have for the future. It is always great to show some enthusiasm about what you do. At the end of the interview, you should remember to thank the people that were interviewing you for having given you the chance to meet them in person and let them know that you're looking forward to hearing back from them. Finally, the last part to think about is the time after your interview. Many people wonder whether or whether not they should write a thank you message after the interview took place in an email, for instance. Personally, I don't think this is necessary, which is why I usually don't do it. If, however, I need to share some additional information or send some additional documents to my future employer, I will of course thank him or her again for having given me the chance to meet them in an interview. One thing I would recommend you not to do here is to ask for feedback too soon after your interview, because if your employer really wants you, he or she will let you know as fast as they possibly can, and there might be some delays in the decision-making process due to all sorts of reasons. If, on the other hand, you are not the candidate that they chose, extra calls and emails won't help that either. So just be patient and wait until you hear back from them. If finally you end up not getting the job that you applied for, I would recommend you to see this as a learning experience. This means that you can call the company and very politely ask why they chose another candidate over you. Because if you do this, you can learn from it and maybe do better in the next interview. If you got the job, congratulations, you have now all reason to be very happy and proud of yourself. However, there are a few things to bear in mind once you hand in your resignation with your current job to make sure that you won't have problems in the future. If you want to learn more about that, make sure not to miss my next video, which I will publish very soon, about what not to do once you quit your job. Also, if you think some aspects were missing in this video, make sure to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Finally, if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up or consider subscribing to my channel. That was it from me today, but I hope to talk to you again soon.